All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and start by naming our notes today. This is M7, lesson 7-5. We're going to be focusing primarily on, today, congruent figures. All right, now, congruent figures are two figures that are exactly the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and start by defining this. Congruent figures two figures that have all the same measurements. And when I say measurements, what I'm referring to are angles, sides. For circles included in this would be radii or radiuses, etc. Okay? So two figures that have all the same measurements. I'll give you two examples here. Okay, the first example being...
Do we need graph paper?
You don't necessarily need graph paper, no. So if there's a triangle, okay, and there it is again, we would call this triangle A, B, C. We'd call this triangle down here X, Y, Z. I'm going to write what's called a congruence statement for these two triangles. We know they're exactly the same because they both have a right angle here. The length of their vertical side is exactly the same. So I'm going to put a dash there and a dash there. So their vertical sides are the same length. Their hypotenuses are exactly the same length. The bottom side of each triangle are exactly the same length. Let's say that this is 63 degrees. No, wrong. Let's just say 30 degrees here. This is 30 degrees. If this is 60 degrees, this is 60 degrees. Everything about the two images is the same. Do you think it would matter if I were to rotate the second image so that it was upright? What do you think? No. All of the angles and sides would still be the same, even though the image is just turned a little bit. So if I took a picture of my face and I copied it on the copy machine and I put one upright and one upside down, they would still be two congruent figures because they'd have all of the exact same dimensions, even if one is turned a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to start by writing a congruent statement for these. So off to the side here, I'm just going to write the words congruence statement. All right, the first thing I do when I'm writing a congruent statement, it's a statement that tells me which two things are congruent. Remember, to be congruent means the same. So I'm going to kind of highlight that right up here. Same, congruent. Those two things kind of work together. So let's say that I call this the one triangle here, I call it triangle. So I put a little triangle symbol, A, B, C. That means that I started at the 60-degree angle, I went to the right angle, I went back over to the 30-degree angle, and then that finishes it out. The way I name it's important. Watch me trace that again. Triangle A, B, C, and that finishes it out. Huh. A, B, C, finished out. So if I was to name the other triangle exactly the same way, starting in the 60-degree corner, going to the 90-degree corner, going to the 30, and finishing out, how would I name that triangle? Gabby? I would name it triangle X, Y, Z. Just so you know, that is the only correct answer for that triangle. The last thing I do is I put the little congruent symbol in between them. That's it. That's a congruent statement. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle XYZ. I will, but I'm going to move on to the next way to write it, which is real simple. Let's say instead of naming it ABC, I named it CAB. And I wanted to know how to name the next one. Okay? Take a moment and talk with the person next to you and see if you can figure out if the first one's named triangle CAB, how would I name the second triangle? Okay? So I have triangle CAB. What am I going to come up with? How is the next one going to be named? I named the triangle CAB. How am I going to adjust the second triangle so that they're named correctly? Anna, do you know? Okay. Take a look at what she did there. From C to A to B and back around. So she did the same thing down here. She went Z to X, X to Y, back around. So it goes Z, X, Y. So that's correct. Z, X, Y. I want you to notice something about these. I'm going to zoom in on them because I think it's important. Look at letter A right here. What letter does it relate to in the other triangle? Yeah, Anna? X. What about in the second naming? If A is now in the middle, what about X? Elizabeth Lixon, what do you think? Look at where A is in the first one. It's at the beginning. X is at the beginning. And the second one, A is in the middle. X is in the... Yeah, that's kind of neat. All right, so let's look at B. B's in the middle here. Y's in the middle. B's at the end. Y's at the... Yeah, it's at the end. Look at that. And last but not least, C's at the end. Z is at the end. C's at the beginning. Z is at the beginning. So when you're naming triangles, those represent the points. The points should line up in the name. Okay, so if I were to name this the third possible way, where it would be triangle BCA, then I don't even need to look at the other triangle to know how it would be named. Okay, B relates to Y, so it would be triangle Y. C relates to Z, so it would be Z. A relates to X, so it would be X. Zoom out. Triangles B, C, A. Let's see, it's not going to come up. So, let's go ahead and all right. Okay, so taking a look at this again. If we're looking at this highlighted version of the thing there, BCA is BCA. I started with B, and so the next one would be YZX. Okay, and it does, it works. Okay, let's move on to the next part of this. I'm going to go ahead and draw a triangle. You're going to see a lot of this, by the way, in today's homework, so pay close attention to this example. I have on my screen a grid. You don't, okay, per se, unless you're using graph paper. So I'm going to draw some points. I would recommend it, and because there's a couple of diagrams and pictures and things that I think are really important. So yeah, I'm just copying these so that I can. Okay. Shh. Here we go. I'm going to draw a triangle. And I'd like you to try to do something the same. That is 2 wide here. 4 wide there, and I just connect there, okay? Now I'm going to draw a triangle. That's 4 there, 2 there, connected. That's good. These are both right triangles, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and put the numbers in for each side. I'm going to tell you that this side is worth 2. This side is 4. This is 2. This is 4. Yes. And I'm going to tell you that, let me just figure out what the hypotenuse is real quick. And I can tell you that, and this is just so you know, the hypotenuse is 4.47 for both of them. You don't need to know how to find the hypotenuse, okay? I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. All right. First off, right off the bat, do you think these two images are congruent? Are they congruent? Are they exactly the same? Lexi's right. They are exactly the same. They are. Just because one of them is laying on its back does not mean that they're not the same. Their measurements are exactly the same. They both have a right angle, and they both have all sides that are equal. Okay, so the trick is going to be to figure out how to name them when they don't look the same. So I'm going to show you some tricks of the trade here. So I'm going to give them some letters. We're going to call this one A, B, C. We're going to call this one W, X, T. I'm going to show you a couple ways to do this. Why don't I use Y? I'm trying to get away from Y. Why don't you use Y as the question? Okay. Triangle A, B, C is congruent to triangle. Okay. First of all, at what angle or between what two sides is A located? What do we think? At what angle or between which two sides is the point A located? Gabby? Yes. But that's a right angle, right? So if you look at that first triangle, okay, and you see that A is located at this right angle, then you try to find the right angle on the other one, and you realize, hey, there it is. So A and W must be in the same spot in the naming scheme. So if I named A first, then I'm going to have to name W first. So I'll start with a W. What was the next letter I named in naming my triangle? Millie? Yep, it was B. And B is at the very pointy tip up here at the top, okay, like so. Which letter does that one correspond to in the next triangle, Hannah? It is. It does. It corresponds to T. So wherever there's a B, I have to have a T. Okay. Last but not least is C, and that's between the 2 and the 4.47. Well, on the next triangle, between the 2 and the 4.47 is X. So this must be WTX. Oh, wrong pen. Like so. So I've named them correctly. What if I had named it CAB is congruent to triangle what? What do we got? CAB would be congruent to triangle, Jacob? CABXT. Very close, Jacob. We go X. Yeah, XWT. Good job, man. XWT.
So are we just listening to the possible ways of getting around?
Well, the point I'm trying to get across today is that the way we name them is important. The points have to be in the same spot on each triangle when we name them. We couldn't just say ABC is congruent to TWX because the points wouldn't line up on the two figures.
Yeah, but I mean, like, are we just trying to name, like, all the ones that are equal to each other? Kind of?
Yeah, Yep.
I'm sorry about him.
Yeah. All right, last but not least, I'm going to draw another dot grid here. Okay, I'm going to copy this.
I was going to say, now you're not copying until you said that.
Never go forward, retard, Jacob.
Mr. Bornheimer, was this how it was, like, how it was when you taught high school?
What?
Like this?
Oh, no, not even close. All right, shh. Here we go. You're going to see problems like this tonight, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to draw a diagram here.
I'm not drawing all those
Only human race would be doing this.
Okay, and the next diagram is going to be, watch. Jacob. Okay. So the question is, are these two images congruent? Why not? Gabby.
On the one, it with the 2 dots going down.
Okay.
On the opposite one, it has 3 dots.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. So you're saying that the distance here is 2. And where on the next one? Here, let's.
Can you just label it?
Oh, see, labels are really nice, aren't they? Wow, wow. Did you highlight the portion that's different? Yep, just touch it and drag. Yeah, that portion right there, that's how much? That's 4 dots or 3 spaces. So those 2 spots on the figures are in the same area, but they're different lengths. And remember, all measurements of congruent figures must be exactly the same. So these 2 figures would not be congruent. Oftentimes, if you're looking at images, you'll be able to tell because there's something not quite right here. Now, if I were to go ahead and adjust this a little bit, such that now are they congruent? Yes. Yes, they are.
Can you just like say if it says are these 2 images congruent explain? Can you just say no just by looking at it?
No, just by looking at it?
Yeah, he can.
Well, yeah, probably. It depends on what the instructions ask.
Do we have to redo that? Do we have to redraw it? Or can we just say how it was? Okay. We have to see adjustment. Do we have to correct it?
No, not necessarily. All right. I'm going to name these A, B, C, D. I'm going to name the next one E, F, G, H. Right now, at your tables, I want you to go ahead and finish this statement. Quadrilateral A, B, C, D is congruent to quadrilateral. Figure it out. Take a couple moments with the people next to you and see if you can figure it out. I'll give you 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. No, that's all we got. We gotta make the most of it. We got it!
Still got 15 seconds.
Now I'll put pressure.
How are we supposed to find that out if we have no numbers whatsoever?
You don't need numbers. You need to look at them and figure out. All right, Hannah, let's start with this. Point A on the left-hand figure is congruent to which point on the right-hand figure? Yes, F. So the first thing is if A comes first, F must come first. Okay? Then B. So I go from A to B. B is the same as which one? Yep. So F, E. C is the same one as H. And D is the same as G. So quadrilateral ABCD is congruent to quadrilateral FEHJ or Faye. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very good. All right. I think for the most part, you guys are in good shape. There's a couple of problems in your homework I want you to be careful of. I want you to put this down in your notes right now. I want you to be really careful with number 8. Number 8, number 12. Okay, I want you to be really careful with those.
8 and 12?
Yep, those are the ones. All right, let's stop.